The Last Stand. Captain Jake Foster stood on the roof of a crumbling building, gazing at the smoky sky. The city of New Haven was a shadow of its former self. Once bustling with life, it now lay in ruins. Fires burned in the distance, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the streets. Alien ships hovered above, their dark silhouettes blocking out the sun. Humanity was losing the battle against the invaders, and hope was slipping away. Jake was a soldier, trained to fight and protect. He had watched his friends fall in battle, one by one. Each loss weighed heavily on his heart. He looked down at the small group of survivors gathered around a makeshift campfire. They were tired and scared, but Jake could see the fire still flickering in their eyes. He knew he had to keep that flame alive. "Listen up," Jake shouted, raising his voice over the crackling fire. The survivors turned to him, their faces lit by the flickering flames. "I know times are tough, but we can't give up. We're still here, and as long as we are, there's hope." One of the survivors, a young woman named Sarah, spoke up. "But what can we do? The aliens are too strong. They have advanced technology, and we're just us." Her voice trembled, and Jake could see the fear in her eyes. Jake stepped closer, kneeling beside her. "I know it seems impossible, but we have something they don't: determination. We're fighting for our homes, our families, and our future. We have to believe that we can make a difference." Just then, a loud beeping noise interrupted them. The group fell silent, looking at Jake. He hurried to the small communication device they had salvaged from an old building. The screen flickered to life, revealing a static-filled image. Slowly, it cleared to show a worried face. It was General Harris, the leader of the last human forces. "Captain Foster," the general said urgently, "we've received a distress signal from an alien planet. A princess named Lyra is being held captive by a warlord. We believe she holds the key to turning this war in our favor." Jake felt a rush of hope. "What do you mean? How can a princess help us?" "The princess possesses an ancient artifact," General Harris explained. "It is said to have immense power, one that could change the tide of the war. But we need to act fast. If the warlord discovers her true value, he will destroy her." Jake looked back at his team. This could be their chance to strike back. "We have to save her," he said firmly. "If she can help us, we can't let fear hold us back. Who's with me?" The survivors exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Then Sarah nodded slowly. "I'm with you, Captain. We can't just sit here and wait to die." One by one, the others agreed. Jake felt a surge of pride. They were scared, but they were ready to fight. Together, they would embark on a journey to save the princess and possibly save humanity. As the group prepared to leave, Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They were no longer just survivors. They were warriors ready to reclaim their future. With determination in their hearts, they set off into the night, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. Journey to the alien world. Jake and his team stood in front of an old spaceship, the last hope for their mission. The ship was battered and covered in dust, but it was still functional. It had once belonged to the Earth Space Fleet, now long gone. The crew spent hours checking the ship, making sure it was ready for the journey ahead. "Are you sure this thing will fly?" Sarah asked, running her hand over the ship's rusty exterior. She looked worried, and Jake could see the doubt in her eyes. "Trust me," Jake replied with a reassuring smile. "It may look old, but it can still fly. We just have to get to the alien planet and rescue Princess Lyra. After that, we can figure out how to use the artifact against the warlord." With the ship ready, the team gathered their supplies. They packed weapons, food, and water, knowing that they might face danger on their journey. Each member felt a mix of excitement and fear. As they climbed aboard, Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Once inside the ship, Jake sat in the pilot's seat. The control panel flickered to life as he pressed a few buttons. He glanced back at his team, who were buckling their seatbelts. "Hold on tight," Jake shouted, his heart racing with anticipation. He pressed the launch button, and the ship shook as the engines roared to life. Slowly, they lifted off the ground, leaving the ruined city behind. As they soared into the sky, Jake felt a rush of freedom. They passed through the clouds, and the stars twinkled around them. The vastness of space was both beautiful and terrifying. He glanced at his team, who were gazing out the windows in awe. "This is amazing," one of the rebels exclaimed, pointing at the stars. But the beauty of space was short-lived. Suddenly, an alarm blared, breaking the peaceful moment. Jake's heart sank as he checked the controls. A red light flashed, signaling an approaching alien ship. "Get ready," Jake shouted, his hands gripping the controls tightly. "We have company." The enemy ship appeared, its sleek form cutting through the darkness. It moved swiftly, preparing to intercept them. Jake's team scrambled for their weapons, ready to fight. "Can you outmaneuver them?" Sarah asked, her voice filled with tension. "I'll try," Jake replied, focusing on the controls. He pulled hard on the joystick, trying to dodge the alien ship's laser fire. The ship shook as shots flew past them, narrowly missing. "Hold on," Jake yelled as he executed a sharp turn. The enemy ship followed closely, but Jake's skills kept them just out of reach. With each passing second, Jake could feel the pressure mounting. The enemy ship fired again, hitting their ship's wing. Alarms blared louder, and smoke filled the cabin. "Are you okay?" Sarah shouted, coughing. "I'm fine. Just focus on the weapons," Jake replied. He maneuvered the ship with all his strength, determined to keep everyone safe. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they approached an asteroid field. "We can lose them in there," Jake shouted, leading the ship into the rocky maze. The enemy ship hesitated, trying to follow but quickly got caught in the debris. Jake navigated through the asteroids, his heart pounding as he barely missed crashing into them. "We did it," one of the rebels cheered as the enemy ship disappeared behind them. Jake let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "That was close," he said, a grin spreading across his face. They were safe for now. As they continued their journey, the team began to relax. They had faced danger together and survived. Each member felt a growing sense of purpose. They were not just a group of survivors anymore. They were a team on a mission to save a princess and perhaps humanity itself. As the alien planet loomed ahead, Jake's heart filled with hope. They were ready to face whatever awaited them. Together, they would fight for a better future, a desperate rescue. As Jake and his team landed on the alien planet, the ship shook, sending vibrations through the cabin. They peered out of the small windows and took in the sights. The landscape was unlike anything they had ever seen. Tall, strange trees with glowing leaves and a sky filled with two suns. It was beautiful, yet it felt dangerous. "Stay alert," Jake warned as they gathered their gear. "We need to find the warlord's fortress quickly. Time is not on our side." They stepped out of the ship and onto the soft, green ground. The air was thick and filled with strange sounds, chirping creatures and rustling leaves. Sarah looked around nervously. "Do you think we'll really find Princess Lyra?" she asked, anxiety evident in her voice. Jake nodded, his determination strong. "We will, but we have to move fast." They set off through the dense forest, sticking close together. The team moved quietly, careful not to attract attention. As they walked, they could see signs of a battle, burned trees, and deep footprints that suggested the presence of the warlord's soldiers. After a long hike, they finally reached the edge of a massive fortress built into the side of a mountain. Tall walls surrounded it, and guards patrolled the area. The fortress looked intimidating, and Jake felt a knot in his stomach. "Look at all those guards," Sarah whispered. "How are we supposed to get inside?" Jake scanned the area, trying to come up with a plan. "We need a distraction," he said thoughtfully. "If we can create a diversion, we can slip past the guards." One of the rebels, a brave man named Marcus, raised his hand. "I can create a distraction," he said. "I'll throw a rock to lure them away." "Are you sure?" Jake asked, worried for Marcus's safety. "I'm ready. Just give me a signal," Marcus replied, determination shining in his eyes. With a nod from Jake, Marcus moved into position. He picked up a large stone and hurled it toward a nearby bush. The loud noise caught the attention of the guards. They quickly moved to investigate, leaving the entrance to the fortress unguarded. "Now's our chance," Jake said, motioning for his team to follow. They dashed toward the gate, hearts racing with adrenaline. They slipped through the entrance just as the guards turned to check the noise. Inside, the fortress was dark and cold. The walls were lined with strange symbols, and Jake felt a chill run down his spine. They moved cautiously, staying quiet as they searched for Princess Lyra. "Over here," Sarah suddenly whispered, pointing to a door at the end of the hallway. It was slightly ajar, and a soft light spilled out. Jake pushed the door open slowly. Inside, they found a small room filled with strange alien devices, and there in the center was Princess Lyra. She was beautiful, with long, flowing hair and bright green eyes. She looked tired but strong. "Help me," Lyra exclaimed, her voice filled with hope as she saw them. Jake rushed to her side and quickly unlocked her restraints. "We're here to save you," he said, relieved to finally find her. "Thank you," Lyra said, her eyes shining with gratitude. "But we must hurry. The warlord will return soon." As they turned to leave, the ground shook. A loud alarm blared through the fortress, echoing off the walls. The guards were alerted, and they knew time was running out. "Quick! We need to get out of here," Jake shouted, leading the way. They sprinted down the hallway, Lyra keeping pace with them. Just as they reached the entrance, a group of guards appeared, blocking their escape. Jake's heart raced. They were trapped. "Get ready to fight," he yelled, raising his weapon. The team stood firm, ready to defend their newfound ally. But before they could engage, a loud roar filled the air. A massive creature burst through the fortress wall, scattering the guards. It was a fierce beast, with sharp claws and glowing eyes. "Run," Jake shouted, pushing Lyra and the others ahead. They dashed through the chaos, taking advantage of the confusion. They escaped the fortress and rushed toward their ship, the sounds of battle fading behind them. As they boarded the ship, Jake felt a rush of relief. They had saved Princess Lyra, but the fight was far from over. "Let's go," he commanded, and they took off into the sky, determined to turn the tide of the war together. Princess Lyra's Secrets. As the spaceship soared through the starry sky, the team breathed a collective sigh of relief. They had rescued Princess Lyra, but now they needed to learn more about the artifact that could help them defeat the warlord. Jake sat in the pilot's seat, glancing back at Lyra, who was resting in a corner of the cabin. She looked weary but strong. "Are you okay, Princess?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Lyra smiled softly. "I'm fine, Captain. Thank you for saving me. But we don't have much time. The warlord will not stop until he finds me." Jake nodded. "We need to know about the artifact you mentioned. How can it help us?" Lyra took a deep breath, her eyes shining with determination. "The artifact is called the Heart of Aloria. It is a powerful crystal that can harness energy. It can be used to protect or destroy, depending on who wields it." The team listened intently, intrigued by her words. Sarah leaned forward. "How do we find it?" "It is hidden in a sacred temple on this planet," Lyra explained. "The temple is protected by ancient guardians. Only those who are pure of heart can enter." "What does that mean?" Marcus asked, scratching his head. Lyra looked serious. "It means we must work together. The artifact will not respond to greed or hatred. We must approach it with respect and unity." Jake felt a surge of hope. "Then we will find it together. We are ready to fight for our future." The ship shook as they flew through the atmosphere. They were getting closer to the temple, Lyra pointed out the window, excitement bubbling in her voice. There, that's the temple. The structure was breathtaking. Tall, majestic pillars stood against the sky, adorned with glowing symbols. The air around the temple felt different, charged with energy. Jake landed the ship nearby, and the team stepped out, feeling the weight of their mission. "Stay close," Jake instructed as they approached the entrance. The air was thick with anticipation. They walked up the steps, their hearts pounding in unison. As they reached the doorway, strange creatures appeared. They looked like living statues, with eyes that glowed in the dim light. The guardians of the temple. "Who dares to enter?" One of the guardians spoke, its voice deep and echoing. Jake stepped forward, trying to appear brave. "We seek the heart of Aloria. We wish to save our people from the warlord." The guardians looked at each other, their eyes narrowing. "Only those who prove their intentions may enter," the guardian replied. "What is your purpose?" Lyra stepped forward. "We come in peace. I am Princess Lyra, and I wish to unite our worlds against a common enemy." The guardians studied her closely. "Very well, Princess, but you must show your true intentions. Answer this riddle. What binds us together, yet can tear us apart?" The team exchanged worried glances. This was their chance. But what was the answer? Jake thought hard, his mind racing. "Love," Sarah said softly, almost to herself. "It can unite us, but also cause pain." The guardians nodded slowly, considering her answer. "You speak wisely. Love is indeed the answer. You may enter the temple." With a loud rumble, the doors opened, revealing a beautiful chamber filled with shimmering light. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it rested the heart of Aloria. The crystal pulsed with a warm glow, filling the space with energy. "Jake, we did it," Sarah exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. As they approached the pedestal, Jake could feel the power of the crystal, but he also sensed a challenge ahead. "Lyra, how do we harness its power?" he asked. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the heart. "We must focus our intentions together. Only as a united front can we wield its true power." The team gathered around the pedestal, holding hands. They closed their eyes and focused, feeling the energy of the heart flow through them. Each member thought of their loved ones and the future they wanted to create. Suddenly, the temple shook, and the heart began to glow brighter. They could feel the bond between them growing stronger. In that moment, Jake understood that they were more than just a team. They were a family, ready to fight for one another. As the light enveloped them, they knew they had awakened the heart of Aloria. With it, they would challenge the warlord and protect their worlds. The battle was coming, but now they were ready. The turning tide. As Jake and his team stood in the temple, the heart of Aloria pulsed with energy in front of them. They had successfully harnessed its power, but the fight was not over. The warlord was still out there, and time was running short. "Now that we have the heart, what's our next move?" Marcus asked, his eyes shining with determination. "We need to confront the warlord and show him that we will not back down," Jake replied, gripping the crystal tightly. "We can use the heart to protect ourselves and strengthen our team." Princess Lyra nodded. "The warlord's fortress is heavily guarded, but if we use the power of the heart wisely, we can turn the tide in our favor." With renewed hope, the team left the temple and boarded their ship. As they flew toward the warlord's fortress, Jake felt a mix of fear and excitement. They were no longer just survivors. They were warriors ready to reclaim their future. As they approached the fortress, Jake's heart raced. The massive structure loomed before them, dark and intimidating. Guards patrolled the walls, and alien ships buzzed around like angry hornets. "Stick to the plan," Jake said, his voice steady. "We'll use the heart to create a barrier that protects us as we land." They landed the ship a safe distance away and gathered together. Lyra held the heart, its warm light illuminating their faces. "When we unleash its power, we must focus together. Let your hearts unite." The team formed a circle around Lyra, each person holding hands. They closed their eyes, concentrating on the heart and the mission ahead. The crystal began to glow brighter, filling the air with energy. Jake felt the connection between them grow stronger, a bond that could not be broken. Now, Lyra commanded, "Release the power." With a collective shout, they opened their eyes. A brilliant beam of light shot from the heart, creating a protective barrier around them. The guards looked stunned, their eyes wide with fear. "Go, now," Jake shouted, leading the charge toward the fortress. The barrier held strong against enemy fire, and the team pushed forward with courage. As they entered the fortress, they encountered guards blocking their path. But the power of the heart made them feel invincible. Jake raised his weapon and shouted, "For humanity, for freedom." The team fought valiantly, using the strength of the heart to shield themselves from attacks. Sarah, Marcus, and the others moved as one, their hearts united. The guardians of the temple had been right. Their bond made them powerful. Just then, they reached a large chamber at the center of the fortress. The warlord stood on a raised platform, his dark armor gleaming. His eyes narrowed as he saw the team. "You dare to challenge me?" He sneered, his voice echoing through the chamber. Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We are here to stop you. You will no longer threaten our worlds." The warlord laughed, a cold and menacing sound. "You think that little crystal can defeat me? You are foolish." But Jake was not afraid. "We have something you will never understand: unity. We fight for each other, and that makes us stronger." With that, Jake raised the heart of Aloria high above his head. The crystal shone brightly, sending waves of energy throughout the chamber. The warlord's expression changed from confidence to shock. "No," he shouted, raising his hands to shield himself from the light. The power of the heart surged forward, creating a shockwave that knocked the warlord off his feet. The team pressed their advantage, rushing toward the warlord as he struggled to regain his balance. "Now is our chance," Sarah yelled, her voice filled with determination. With a final surge of energy, Jake and his team unleashed the power of the heart, sending a wave of light crashing into the warlord. The fortress shook, and the dark walls began to crumble. As the dust settled, the warlord was defeated. The barrier that had once kept them oppressed was broken, and freedom was within reach. The team cheered, their voices echoing in the chamber. They had turned the tide of the battle, united in their fight for freedom. "Let's go home," Jake said, looking at his friends and Lyra. "We have a future to build." Together, they left the ruins of the fortress, knowing that they had changed the course of history. They were no longer just fighters. They were heroes. Battle preparations. After their victory at the fortress, Jake and his team felt a surge of hope. They had defeated the warlord, but they knew the battle was not over. The warlord's forces were still scattered across the planet, and they needed to prepare for the final showdown. Back at their ship, Jake gathered everyone in the main cabin. The atmosphere was tense, but the excitement of victory hung in the air. "We have won an important battle, but we must be ready for the war," Jake said, looking at each team member. "We need a solid plan." Princess Lyra stood beside him, her eyes shining with determination. "The warlord may have been defeated, but his loyal soldiers will not give up easily. We need to unite the other resistance groups across the planet. They need to know that we can fight together." "Where do we start?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowing with concern. "There are several key locations where we can find the resistance," Lyra explained. "We can gather them at the Valley of Unity. It's a safe place where they can come together." Jake nodded. "Then let's make our way to the valley. We can use the heart to inspire them and show them that we are a united force." The team set to work immediately, preparing their ship for the journey. They stocked up on supplies and checked their weapons. Each member felt a renewed sense of purpose. This time, they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for freedom and a better future. As they flew toward the Valley of Unity, Jake felt a mix of hope and anxiety. Would the other resistance groups be willing to join them? Would they trust them after so many battles? He knew they had to try. When they arrived at the valley, it was even more beautiful than Jake had imagined. The lush green hills and bright flowers made it a perfect gathering spot. They set down the ship and stepped outside, taking in the fresh air. "Let's spread the word," Jake said. "We need to send messages to the other groups, inviting them to join us." Lyra took charge, using her connection with the planet's inhabitants. She sent messages through the local communication systems, reaching out to anyone who would listen. "We are gathering in the Valley of Unity," she declared. "Together, we can defeat the warlord and bring peace to our world." As the hours passed, they waited and watched. Slowly, members from various resistance groups began to arrive. Each group was different. Some were humans, others were alien warriors, all fighting against the warlord's tyranny. Jake felt a swell of pride as he watched them come together. Each warrior brought their own stories and struggles, and they all shared one common goal. They wanted freedom. Once everyone had gathered, Jake stood up on a small rock to address the crowd. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice echoing in the valley. "We are here to unite against a common enemy. The warlord has caused suffering for too long, and it is time for us to stand together." The crowd cheered, their voices mixing into a chorus of determination. "With the heart of Eloria, we have the power to protect ourselves. We will show the warlord that we will not be defeated." As Jake spoke, Lyra held the heart high above her head. The crystal glowed brightly, casting a warm light over the crowd. Everyone could feel its energy, filling them with hope and courage. "Together, we can achieve the impossible," Jake shouted. "Let us prepare for battle. We will train, strategize, and build our strength. Together, we are unstoppable." The crowd erupted into applause, and the energy in the valley shifted. The warriors felt empowered, ready to fight for their future. They broke off into groups, starting to train and discuss strategies. Jake felt a sense of unity in the air. Each member of the team knew their role and was committed to the cause. As the sun began to set, the valley lit up with the glow of hope. They worked late into the night, forging bonds and preparing for the final confrontation with the warlord. Together, they were not just individuals. They were a force, united in their fight for freedom. Jake smiled, knowing that they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The battle preparations were underway, and the tide of war was turning in their favor. The final assault. The day of the final assault had arrived. The sun rose over the Valley of Unity, casting a warm glow on the assembled warriors. Jake stood at the front of the gathered crowd, feeling the energy and determination radiate from each person around him. They had trained hard for this moment, and now it was time to put their plan into action. "Today, we fight for our freedom," Jake shouted, his voice booming across the valley. "We are not just fighting for ourselves, but for everyone who has suffered under the warlord's rule." The crowd erupted into cheers, their faces filled with hope and determination. Princess Lyra stood beside Jake, holding the heart of Eloria high above her head. Its glow filled everyone with strength. "With this crystal, we will protect ourselves and drive the warlord from our land," she declared. Jake felt the unity among the warriors. They were a mix of humans and aliens, each with their own stories and reasons for joining the fight. Together, they had become a powerful force, ready to take on the warlord's army. As they prepared to march toward the warlord's fortress, Jake gathered his team for one last huddle. "We need to stay focused," he reminded them. "Stick to the plan, and we'll emerge victorious." With that, they set off toward the fortress, their hearts beating in sync. As they approached, the dark structure loomed in the distance, a reminder of the battle they were about to face. The sky was overcast, casting a shadow over the fortress and adding to the tension in the air. When they arrived, they could see the warlord's guards patrolling the walls. Jake raised his hand to signal the team to stop. They had come up with a plan to distract the guards while others made their way inside. "Marcus, you're up," Jake whispered, nodding toward his friend. Marcus was ready with a few explosives they had crafted during their preparations. He smiled confidently and moved to the front. With a swift motion, Marcus tossed a small explosive toward a distant corner of the fortress. The explosion was loud and bright, drawing the guards' attention. "Now," Jake shouted. The team rushed forward, taking advantage of the chaos. They sprinted toward the fortress, using the energy of the heart to shield themselves from incoming fire. Jake could hear the shouts of the guards and the clash of weapons behind them. Once inside the fortress, they split into smaller groups to search for the warlord. Jake led one group while Lyra took another. "Stay close and be ready for anything," he cautioned. As they moved through the dimly lit corridors, the sound of clashing weapons echoed all around them. They encountered guards but fought bravely, using the skills they had honed in the Valley of Unity. Each warrior fought with determination, fueled by the desire for freedom. Finally, they reached the central chamber of the fortress. There, they found the warlord standing defiantly, flanked by his most loyal soldiers. He looked furious. His eyes narrowed as he saw Jake and Lyra. "You dare to enter my domain," he bellowed. Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We're here to end your reign of terror. Your time is over." The warlord laughed, a cold and menacing sound. "You think you can defeat me with your little band of rebels? I will crush you." With a fierce battle cry, the warlord charged at Jake. But Jake was ready. He raised the heart of Aloria high above his head, channeling its power into a protective barrier around him and his team. The energy radiated outward, pushing back the warlord and his soldiers. "Now," Lyra shouted, rallying the troops. The warriors charged forward, fighting with all their strength. The clash of weapons and the cries of battle filled the air. As the fight intensified, Jake could feel the power of the heart coursing through him. He focused on the warlord, dodging attacks and striking back with determination. The warlord was strong, but Jake felt a surge of hope. They were fighting for something greater than themselves. With one final push, Jake and Lyra combined their strength, channeling the energy of the heart directly at the warlord. A brilliant beam of light shot forth, striking the warlord and knocking him to the ground. The dark aura around him began to fade. As the dust settled, the warlord lay defeated. The fortress trembled as the team celebrated their victory. They had fought hard, united against a common enemy, and together they had triumphed. "Let this be a lesson to all," Jake declared, his voice strong. "We will not be oppressed any longer." The warriors cheered, knowing that they had not only won a battle but had also secured their freedom. The tide had turned, and they were ready to build a new future together. Aftermath of the battle. The echoes of battle faded, leaving a profound silence in the fortress. Jake and his team stood together, breathless and battered but filled with a sense of victory. They had faced the warlord and his forces, and now they were free. As the dust settled, Jake looked around at the faces of his friends and allies. Each person wore a mix of relief and disbelief. "We did it," he said softly, the weight of their achievement beginning to sink in. Princess Lyra stepped forward, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You fought bravely, all of you. Today, we have shown that unity is our greatest strength." The group shared a moment of silence, honoring the sacrifices made by those who had fought alongside them. Many warriors from the resistance had risked everything for this fight, and they would not be forgotten. Jake turned to look at the remnants of the warlord's fortress. "We need to make sure this place is safe for everyone," he said. "The warlord's followers may still be out there, trying to regroup." "Let's search the area," Sarah suggested. "We should secure the fortress and look for any remaining soldiers who need our help." The team nodded in agreement and began to split up, searching for anyone who might still be hiding. As they moved through the broken hallways and crumbling rooms, they encountered a few scattered soldiers. These were not fierce warriors. They were scared and confused. Many were just ordinary people who had been forced to fight. Jake approached one young soldier sitting on the ground, trembling with fear. "You don't have to fight anymore," he said gently. "The warlord is gone. You're safe now." The soldier looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. "Really? It's over?" "Yes," Jake assured him. "Join us. We are here to help rebuild our world." As they continued their search, more soldiers surrendered. With every new face, the team felt a growing sense of responsibility. They were not just liberators. They were leaders now, helping others find their way. After the fortress was secured, Jake called everyone back to the central chamber. The warriors gathered, weary but alive with the energy of victory. "Today we celebrate our freedom," he began, "but we must also think about the future. The warlord is gone, but there is much work to be done. Many of us have lost our homes," Lyra added, her voice firm. "We must work together to rebuild what has been lost. Let us create a new society, one built on trust and cooperation." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. They understood the challenge ahead. It would not be easy to heal the wounds left by the war, but together, they could make it happen. Jake felt a surge of hope. "Let's form teams to help with rebuilding. We will need workers, builders, and leaders. Every skill is important. Together, we can create a brighter future for everyone." As plans were made, Jake felt a new sense of purpose. The heart of Aloria had given them the power to fight, but it was their unity that would help them heal and grow. Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly to rebuild the fortress. They cleared debris, repaired walls, and made the place livable again. The once dark and oppressive fortress began to transform into a center of hope. People from all backgrounds came together, sharing their skills and resources. Humans worked alongside aliens, each contributing to the effort. Bonds were formed through shared labor, and laughter began to fill the air once more. As the sun set one evening, Jake stood on the balcony of the fortress, looking out at the valley below. He could see groups of people working together, planting seeds and building homes. It was a sight he had always dreamed of. "Lyra," he called, waving her over. She joined him on the balcony, a smile on her face. "Look at what we've started," she said, her eyes sparkling. "This is just the beginning." "Yes," Jake replied, filled with hope. "Together, we will build a future that honors everyone's sacrifices, a future where we stand united against any threat." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jake felt a sense of peace wash over him. They had fought hard, but the battle was only the beginning of a new journey. Together, they would rise and create a world where freedom and unity would reign. A new beginning. Months had passed since the defeat of the warlord, and the fortress had transformed into a thriving community. Jake stood at the entrance, watching as people moved about, laughter and chatter filling the air. The once gloomy structure now buzzed with life, a symbol of hope and resilience. "Jake, come and help with the festival preparations," Sarah called, waving him over. She was busy decorating the courtyard with colorful banners and lights. Today was a special day, the first celebration of their new freedom. "I'll be right there," Jake replied, a smile spreading across his face. He joined her and began helping hang the banners, feeling a sense of joy he hadn't experienced in a long time. As they worked, he glanced around at the community. Children played in the open fields, their laughter ringing out like music. Families gathered to share meals, and neighbors chatted with one another, forming bonds that would last a lifetime. The heart of Aloria had given them strength in battle, but it was the spirit of the people that had brought them together. Princess Lyra approached, her expression bright with excitement. "Everything looks wonderful. The festival will be a celebration of our unity and our new beginning." Jake nodded. "We've all worked hard to make this place feel like home. It's amazing to see everyone coming together." As the sun began to set, the sky transformed into a canvas of oranges and purples. The first stars twinkled above, and the courtyard began to fill with people. Jake felt his heart swell with pride as he looked around at the smiling faces. "Let's gather everyone together," Lyra called. It's time to start the celebration. The crowd formed a circle in the courtyard, and Jake stood beside Lyra as she addressed them. Today, we celebrate not only our victory, but also our new beginning as a united community. Together, we have built something beautiful from the ashes of the past. The crowd cheered, their voices blending into a chorus of hope. Jake felt the energy of the moment surge through him. They had come so far, and now they were ready to embrace the future. As the festival began, music filled the air. People danced and shared stories of their journeys, of struggles and triumphs. Jake joined in, feeling the rhythm of the music as he danced with Sarah and the others. Laughter echoed, and for a moment, the memories of battle faded away. Later in the evening, Lyra led everyone in a toast. To our strength, our unity, and our future, she proclaimed, raising her cup high. To our future, the crowd echoed, raising their cups in solidarity. Jake felt a sense of belonging wash over him. He had fought for this moment, and now it was finally here. They had created a community where everyone was valued and respected, no matter their background. As the night continued, Jake found a quiet spot on the balcony overlooking the valley. He took a deep breath, reflecting on how far they had come. The land was healing, and so were the people. "Hey, you okay?" Sarah asked, joining him. She leaned against the railing, her eyes sparkling in the moonlight. "Yeah," Jake replied, smiling. "I was just thinking about how different everything is now. We've built something truly special. It's only going to get better," she said confidently. "With each passing day, we'll grow stronger and closer. We're not just survivors anymore. We're a family." Jake nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. "I'm proud to be a part of this family. We've all played a role in this new beginning." As the festival continued below, Jake realized that this was just the start of their journey. Together, they would face any challenges that lay ahead, united in their purpose. The night wore on, filled with music, laughter, and the promise of a brighter future. Jake looked out over the valley, feeling a deep sense of hope. A new beginning awaited them, and he was ready to embrace it with open arms. Together, they would write a new story, one of unity, love, and endless possibilities.